Lads, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Now, this video that I'm about to show you was recorded a very long time ago. I think it was the beginning of June when we're in lockdown and we didn't know when football was coming back. But obviously, I've not had enough time to edit it because football came back and then it went all crazy. So this is a video that I did very similar to the Wolves one that I did with Ed. This is Ben, who is from Norwich Talk. And believe it or not, it's a combined Sheffield United and Norwich City 11. And obviously at the time, Norwich were bottom of the league, but they still had a chance of getting out of it. But obviously they didn't. So please take that into consideration because obviously Norwich have not had a great time since coming back from lockdown. But that hadn't happened at this point. So you're going to be seeing me and Ben talking through a Sheffield United 11 and a Norwich 11 and trying to combine them both. And you will notice that in the video I'm wearing a cap, which is very unlike me. But this was during lockdown when I'd shaved my head and I was struggling a little bit here for hair. But if I could go back in time and tell past Nick that, don't worry, your hair's coming back, I just wouldn't worry and I'd probably embrace the thinning hair. But look, it's back, it's here. So anyway, let's crack on with the video. So we've got Ben, a Norwich City fan, so it's nice to have you on the channel. I think I've been on yours once and you've not been on mine, so it's nice to have you.
It's nice to be on, mate. Nice to be back.
Obviously, in this video, what we're going to be doing is a combined Sheffield United and Norwich City 11, which will be fun because we've got this little bit of a rivalry going at the moment. We spoke about this on your video, didn't we? Probably a few months back now. I'm going to say a few weeks, but it was a few months, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's such a weird rivalry, and I have absolutely no idea why it sort of came about. But, you know, I think we enjoy it. Some more than others, but we do enjoy it.
Yeah. It's not too bad. It's not like a city rivalry or something like that. It's just a bit of a...
It's just a weird one.
I think it's dying out a little bit. I don't think it... Like, for instance, I think it kind of started with Wilder going off on a bit of a rant after you guys were late to...
Yeah, the old banging on the table. We did enjoy that, although since I don't think we've beaten you. So, yeah, it's very much tail between the legs at the moment.
So yeah, I think that's where it all came from. But I think it's dying down a little bit. But saying that, when Mousse beat Cantwell in FIFA, and then Egan beat, who was it?
It's Max Aarons.
Max Aarons, yeah. Our fans seemed to enjoy that too, didn't they?
Do you know what, that really bothered me because I was like, of course we're going to lose to Sheffield United. I enjoy it, but honestly, when I think it was told Cantwell lost, I was just like, right, can you just sort of leave us alone at this point?
Yeah, I know. Well, Cantwell took it really seriously because I think he was the favourite for the competition beforehand. I
think being the favourite just means you play FIFA the most. I mean, I watch the games and I think I could beat him quite comfortably. I've said that on record now, so if that happens, you know, I have to turn it back to this video. But yeah, it's just funny at the end of the day, isn't it?
So we'll get into this 11. So first of all, we're going to be looking at the goalkeeper. Obviously, I'm going to put Dean Henderson forward. I think it's second highest clean sheets in the Premier League this season. Yeah, had a bit of a shaky start at the beginning of the season. I think the thing is he'd never played Premier League football before, so it was kind of like, shall I come for this ball, shall I not? And yeah, obviously he made that horrendous mistake against Liverpool when it went through his legs. But other than that, he's been excellent this season. Got a team of the season in FIFA as well, which is quite nice, and as though we never get any special cards.
That's the same with us, mate. Honestly, I know how that feels.
Yeah. I'm not too bothered, but it does infuriate me sometimes because
it's nice to be recognised because the players enjoy it as well. But,
exactly.
You know, hey ho.
Anyway, so go on then, goalkeeper.
Do you know what? I've gone with Henderson as well. I was really thinking about putting up a fight with Tim Krul because genuinely he's really good, and I think Henderson's very similar to him in terms of he loves to sort of rile up the opposition fans. Very good shot stopper. Yeah. A bit shaky sometimes. Sort of cult heroes at the clubs now. But I've got to go with Henderson because, as you said, second most clean sheets, which is 10 behind Nick Pope. Yeah. So he's got the same amount as Alisson, which I think has sort of gone unnoticed, which is really impressive. But yeah, Henderson for me, just because. I remember at Carrow Road when we played you, he just turns around, he gives it large right in front of me. And personally, I'm okay with that. Like, I enjoy that. I think that's funny.
Yeah.
And I'd want a bit of that in my team. Tim Krul does it, but not as well or to as much of an extent as Dean Henderson. But it's got to be Henderson for me.
I do remember Tim Krul doing it last season, if I'm right, when Billy Sharp had a penalty. I think it took him about half an hour to get back to his line.
Mate, he's like that for every penalty. I was there. I was at the Norwich Spurs game in the FA Cup, and before every penalty, he had to do his little routine. And it's just like, come on, Tim, get between the sticks.
Yeah.
But honestly, I love it.
Does he get right in the penalty taker's face?
He does that sometimes. He's got a bit of variation. He's got a bit of an arsenal when it comes to sort of getting in the penalty taker's head. And one is getting in their face. One is, I think, standing behind the goal, and then the other is literally just walking around like he's got hands in his pants.
Yeah.
But, it clearly works because I think he saved the most penalties this season.
Yeah. Oh.
And also, he saved, I think it was 2 or 3 in that penalty shootout as well. But what works, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing that I've seen from Tim Krul this season really was the fact that do you know George Baldock, when he scored against you guys, obviously the turn from Baldock was incredible, but the shot wasn't as good as, like, I did a Sheffield United top 10 goals and didn't put that as high as it probably should have done because the shot just wasn't good enough, and it kind of like went over Tim Krul's hands.
Yeah, do you know, it's one of them that you see late, isn't it? That's what I think. I can forgive that as a Norwich fan because he saved us so many times, but I think what you take from that goal is it George Baldock just sending Mario Vrancic for a hot dog, and it was a really good goal.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to talking about George Baldock because I do have a slightly controversial opinion.
Ooh, right, okay. We'll see you very soon. So, Dean Henderson, first player in the squad.
Definitely. Also, what formation are we going for this?
That's what I've just thought just then, because when I was going to say centre-backs, I'm like, ooh, because...
I've got a 4-3-3.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps.
Okay, I'll go with 4-3-3. I think it was a little bit easier in the last video because Wolves play a slightly... Well, they play three centre-backs, 2 wing-backs, and then your 2 midfielders and then your 3 attackers. It's kind of similar to us with the 3 centre-backs. So we'll go 4 at the back because I'm guessing that most teams in the Premier League, other than, I think it's just us and Wolves that play 5 or 3 at the back, will be 4. So we'll go with 4. And I don't know really because we don't play any wingers whatsoever. So 3 attackers. We'll see how we go anyway. So... We'll go.
The attackers is where I come into my own.
Yeah,
I'll just say that.
So anyway, we'll go for right back. Obviously, we've got George Baldock. If you want to carry on what we were going to be saying.
I was just going to put Max Aarons there instead of George Baldock.
Okay.
The thing is, when I was looking at this team, because I was quite excited to make this video because Sheffield United are the one team in the Premier League that I'm not going to say I wish I supported them, but I look at it for them. I'm quite happy and I enjoy watching them win.
Yeah.
And that's mainly because of the way they play, which is sort of not heavily reliant upon the wing backs, but the wing backs are quite good. But controversially, I've gone for Max Aarons for this team specifically, just because I think he's better at attacking. And I think George Baldock, he's no spring chicken, but I just think Max Aarons is a bit better. He's a bit quicker. I don't know if his crossing is as good. I think definitely Max Aarons is better at defending, which sounds a bit mad to say. But it's got to be Max Aarons for me. When you look at the rest of the defence, I think it's quite easy to see where it'll go. But Max Aarons is the case I'll put up for a Norwich City player in defence. Okay,
that's fine. I'll tell you a bit about Baldock, in my opinion. He was, when we first signed him from MK Dons in the Championship, he's come on so much since then. It was kind of, there was him and Kieran Freeman, and neither of them really, like, both of them were okay, but neither of them was like, that's my shirt, you're not getting back in, until kind of the latter stages of last season. He just came into his own, got better and better, and then I thought, maybe we need to replace him this season for the Premier League. And he's probably been the most improved player out of... Well, he is the most improved player out of the whole team. And that's including John Lundstram, who didn't get a game last season.
So how old is Baldock?
20... I'm going to say mid-20s, maybe late 20s, something like that.
Is he blooming quite late then?
I think so, yeah. Because obviously Max Aarons... How old is he? Early 20s?
Max Aarons is 20, I believe.
20, yeah. 27. Baldock is 20. I thought he was around about the 25, 26 mark, but yeah, 27 obviously has definitely bloomed late. But that's the same with quite a lot of our players because they've come from the lower leagues. So, like, obviously, Bulldog came from MK Dons, who were like League One, League Two side. Had some time at Oxford as well, so he's definitely been around the lower divisions, and obviously he's come into his own a bit later than obviously Max Aarons. And to be perfectly honest, Max Aarons was excellent last season, and I've not seen too much of him this season, but I really rate him as a right back, so I'll definitely let you have that one.
It might be a bit difficult for the other three.
Yes, maybe so. So, who do you want to make a case for, centre-back wise, from Norwich?
Do you know what? Genuinely looking at my team, I'm going with John Egan, Chris Basham. I know you've got another centre back, isn't that O'Connell?
Jack O'Connell, yeah.
So either of them three in the two, because Norwich's defence this season has just not been very good.
Yeah.
We have got good centre backs. Like Grant Hanley has sort of grown to the Premier League again quite well. He started off the season with a groin injury, which I think a lot of people forget when we were conceding goals. Ben Godfrey, 21 years old, is second. I think it's his first season in the Premier League and maybe his second and a half season in senior football. And also I think Christoph Zimmermann perhaps isn't cut out for the Premier League.
Right.
Tim Closer, our main centre-back, has been out with an ACL injury for most of the season. We were massively excited for him to play in the Premier League because we signed him last time we got relegated, and he got injured in that season. And again, he's got injured, and it's very much a question of what if he hadn't have been injured. But I'm going to have to go with the Sheffield United centre-backs because they're just so good. And John Egan, when he came to Carrow Road, was proper winding me up, which is a trait that I think is so important for a centre-back.
In what way?
Just the kicking the attackers and pulling the shirt and just kicking the ball away and stuff like that. Not only is he good on a good defender, but I think that's an important trait because it shows that the player sort of cares about the game. And you wouldn't get that with Norwich, which isn't a bad thing. Yeah. But quite clearly, it's working for Sheffield United and it's not working for Norwich. But yeah, I've got to go with them too. I don't know who you'd pick out of the three for the two.
It's a tough one because when we came into the Premier League, I thought Jack O'Connell was going to be him and Enda Stevens were going to be our two best players in the Premier League, and Jack O'Connell does a lot of work that you don't really see, like the blocking, the clearances. Like the ball's got to be cleared, and sometimes people mess about with it. And Jack O'Connell, if a pass is on, he'll pass it, but if it gets rid of it if it has to go. And like I say, the blocking, the positional sense, is excellent at. But I've got to say, in the last video, for some reason, I was going to put Basham in, but then I changed it to Jack O'Connell. And I don't know why, because Basham has been so good this season. To say that he was playing in a really poor League One side, in central midfield, hit and miss, to being one of our best players this season is just incredible. So I'm more than happy to go with Chris Basham. And John Egan, I would make the biggest case for him. Because I always say a centre-back, head it and kick it. That's all they need to do. And John Egan just encapsulates everything that's great about the Sheffield United side. It's just determination, getting stuck in, don't give him an inch. And that's John Egan for me. He's not necessarily the best on the ball, but he's certainly not the worst. And I'll tell you what, he's come on leaps and bounds since we signed him. Because when we signed him from Brentford, the Brentford fans were saying he's terrible on the ball, but that's because Brentford love playing out from the back, and so do we. Obviously, with the overlapping centre backs, which I'm sick to death of now, if I'm being completely honest, because everyone bangs on about the overlapping centre back, but no one ever talks about John Egan.
It is a bit of a footballing taboo, isn't it, in terms of. So the overlapping centre backs, you look at a team and they can only be progressive in air quotations, if they're playing out with their feet. But as you said, John Egan seems to be doing it quite well. And one thing that I want to say quickly is where I think Norwich and Sheffield United fans can sort of empathise for each other in terms of experiencing the Premier League for the first time in a while is when Norwich came up in 2011, I think it was, with Paul Lambert. We were almost identical to you and to Sheffield United because we signed lower league players, and the football was very much it was good football, but it wasn't exactly the prettiest at times, and it was very much a case of just getting in the Premier League teams' faces. And that's one comparison that I'd like to draw, just to sort of try and unite the fans a bit more, because we've experienced the Premier League in the same way, and honestly it's so nice to see Chris Wilder sort of bringing these players in from lower leagues and sticking with them. Norwich have done it essentially as well, but we've just done it from with players from Germany. But it's really nice to see Sheffield United doing that, and I know they spent 7 times more than Norwich, but it's sort of hard not to at this point.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's just a bit of appreciation for the centre backs and sort of the lower league signings, really.
Yeah. I think really we didn't even need to spend that money coming into the season, because I think the Ollie McBurney signing was a bit of a panic buy, because we needed one of them strikers. I think Morpay kind of fell through, and obviously he went to Brighton, and we were like, we need a striker, and we well overpaid for him. And then obviously Sander Berger, I think the reason why we signed him was because we thought we're more than safe. Let's bring in a younger player who could progress into a very, very good Premier League player. Anyway, so we're going to go John Egan and Chris Basham at centre-back. Next, left-back. Do you want to put your case forward?
I'm sticking with Ender Stevens, mainly because Jamal Lewis is fantastic. I think he's very underrated in the Premier League, but I just don't think he's played enough. There was actually a point in the season, I think it was by October, where Jamal Lewis and Ender Stevens were the 2 fullbacks with the most successful dribbles taken on, which I didn't know that was a thing.
Right.
But I've got to go with Ender Stevens just because I think he's better at defending. I'm okay with Stevens. I'll put my hands up.
Fair enough. I put this case forward in the Wolves video, saying that I said that Ender Stevens is the second best left back in the league for me. I might be a bit biased, but he's incredible. Scoring goals this season, assisting goals, he's just been brilliant. And not just that, he's showboating left, right, and centre. I remember at Stamford Bridge,
he really is.
He was just taking the mick out of 2 or 3 Chelsea players, and then just assisting goals and stuff. And it's great to see. We've not had a good left back for a very, very long time, so it's nice to see Ender Stevens coming to the front. So, Ender Stevens is our left back. I've got down here Kenny McLean and Alex Tete as your central defensive midfielders.
So they are the pairing at the moment, I think. But with Norwich, the main headache for Daniel Farke is the sort of central area of midfield, because it's such a pivotal way to how Norwich play, and it was last season. Whereas last season, I think we had centre mids who sort of adapted to the league quickly and flourished. Whereas this season, it's been a case of constantly changing the pairing, not knowing what's the best pairing to use, because do you go with 2 central defensive midfielders, protect the back 4? Do you go more attacking and try and play the way Norwich do? But Tete and McLean are it at the moment, but we've got an abundance of really, really good midfielders. It's just they haven't really taken to the Premier League brilliantly. But Tete and McLean are sort of the pairing at the moment. But I think we've got 5, to be honest with you, who I think are cut out for the Premier League.
Okay. Because we play it in a slightly different way. We play 3 kind of, 1 defensive midfielder, which is Ollie Norwood, that kind of is more of a quarterback, if you like. I hate using American football terms, but
that's the exact same one I'd use, quarterback. It's a very, very good role.
Picks the ball up. And to be perfectly honest, obviously his passing ability is incredible, but his defensive work's also overlooked a little bit sometimes, because he's definitely got better and better. He's not got pace in abundance, but he doesn't need to, so he picks that ball up, he hits those diagonal balls, and then he obviously breaks play up as well. So I'd definitely like to put Ollie Norwood in there, more or less for his passing ability rather than his defensive ability.
Ollie Norwood is in mine as well.
Right, okay.
That makes life a bit easier.
Yes, definitely. And I'd definitely like to put John Fleck in there, because I think he's been our best player this season.
I absolutely love John Fleck, like watching him play. I think I mentioned this last time, but he is a Norwich City legend, Robert Fleck's nephew, which is how I actually heard about him originally. So in my head, I naturally made the assumption, he must be quite good, because Flecky was quite good back in his day. But John Fleck's got to be in there. He's been one of the most underrated players in the Premier League this season. It's actually quite ridiculous how good he is. I don't think Scotland are sort of blessed for central midfielders and footballers in general, but John Fleck is on it. He's been so good, and I would absolutely love to have him in the Norwich team. We've changed the way we play, where we did have an attacking midfielder and then 2 central midfielders. Now we've got kind of a flat 3, and because we've got a flat 3, Fleck gets forward a lot more on that left hand side. He's top goal scorer, isn't he?
Yeah, he's top goal scorer. Him and Mousset are both joint top goal scorers, but for a central midfielder to be top goal scorer, I know it's only 5. But 5 for a central midfielder is not that bad. It's good. And especially, like you say, his top goal scorer is brilliant. But like I said, because we've not got that attacking midfielder, he still has to do a lot of defensive work, but he's got kind of license to get forward in like kind of a free role on that left hand side, if you like. And then obviously we've had Lundstrom for most of the season as right centre mid, which he's been incredible for some games and then kind of falls away in others. So I think that's the reason why we kind of brought in Mo Besic, we brought in Sander Berger. So I definitely like to put Ollie and John Fleck in there. I think Lundstrom's been a bit hit and miss sometimes. So anyone that you want to put in, obviously we've got Emi Buendia, we've got Cantwell, we've got who's Duda. I've not even heard of Duda, if I'm being completely honest.
Duda came in January from Hertha Berlin, I think, on loan, and he's sort of your £25 million. I don't know what to call him. He's not very good. He's not been brilliant. He's not played much football over the last 3 years, to be fair to him. But he came into Norwich in a position in the number 10, which is why I've excluded it from this team from a Norwich City perspective. But the number 10 position for Norwich just hasn't been taken like it was last season. Obviously, Marco Stiepermann was really, really good last season. I don't know if you remember him last season, but this big 6'2" guy who's suddenly really good with his feet.
Scored some goals as well, didn't he?
He did. I think he scored some bangers as well.
Yeah.
But
I think that's the reason why I remember him, because he scored a few goals and a few really good goals as well. Because you don't see those tap-ins, do you, on Sky or anything, but you see the ones that hit the top corners or hit the bottom corners and stuff.
That was sort of his bread and butter, and he had a few quirky celebrations to match it as well. But I'm going to leave Cantwell Buendia out for now until we move on to the attack. And I'm going to go with Mario Vrancic as my sort of midfielder who I'd put into that team, because for me, it's so easy for me to say this because I've seen him so often, but he is quite possibly one of the most underused, underappreciated footballers in the Premier League at the moment. Genuinely, I think he could comfortably slip into a top 16 because his passing range is just outrageous, and I think that would complement really well with, say, Ollie Norwood putting in the dirty work and John Fleck being a bit more box to box. Because Vrancic, the problem with him, I genuinely have no idea why he's not played much this season, but the problem with him is that he needs to be next to someone who's defensively disciplined. And Norwich have that in Alex Tettey, but he's not very mobile. So it's been quite hard, and Vrancic's defensive ability and capability has improved massively. So he wins his headers. He's 6'2". He's a lot stronger on the ball as well. I don't know if you watched Norwich Leeds last season at Elland Road, where we just thumped them, which is what a beautiful game that was, by the way.
And I also enjoyed it on. I watched the Leeds documentary twice now.
I haven't watched that yet.
It's really good, actually. It's not as good as the Sunderland one, but it's decent.
Well, Vrancic that day was just unreal, and he's so good. Like, I don't know if you remember, you probably do actually, because I think Chrissy Wilder mentioned it when he was rambling about VAR one of the 50,000 times. But when Vrancic played that ball over to Timu Pukki against Spurs, which was then disallowed by VAR, that sums him up to a T. There was no fluke about that. He has weighted that ball perfectly, and every team needs a Mario Vrancic. I cannot begin to explain how good he is. He's Norwich's best midfielder by a mile. Which is controversial within the Norwich City fan base because we have so many good central midfielders, but Vrancic has to go in there for me.
Okay, that's fine. I'm happy with that. So we've got Ollie Norwood is kind of the defensive midfielder, and then we've got Fleck and Vrancic in there as ballers, absolute ballers.
Mate, that midfield looks tasty. I'd love that.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, we've got the attackers. I might as well leave the room for this one.
Do you know what? I'll tell you what's interesting, right? I don't have the numbers to hand, but when I mentioned this on our video actually ages ago now, which seems sort of weird to say, but what fascinates me most about Sheffield United is just the fact that they've scored like 15, 20 less goals than all the teams above and below them, but yet they've conceded 15 to 20 less. And I think I mentioned this as well, which is that when you look at your signings in the summer, Callum Robinson? Yeah. Callum Robinson, Mousse, Ollie McBurney, there was quite a clear thing that Chris Wilder was trying to get going, an attempt to score more goals, which it's not really worked, has it? Because Ollie McBurney, I don't think is very good. He just sort of annoys me. Callum Robinson's at West Brom, isn't he? And I think Mousse he did okay for a period, didn't he? But I don't know if he's sort of gone under the radar again. But there was quite a clear sort of ethos in the transfer window for Wilder, wasn't there?
I'll tell you how I see it. You're absolutely right. He tried to spend money on really good attacking players either from the Championship, the best of the best, if you like, because obviously tried to sign Morpay, who was one of the top goal scorers, Simon McBurney, who was one of the top goal scorers from the Championship last season, Callum Robinson. Every time I've seen him play for Preston, I've been really, really impressed. So I think obviously Wilder has as well. And we didn't spend that much on him, I don't think. We obviously broke our transfer record quite a few times. Obviously, Luke Freeman we brought in, who's barely got a game, even though I absolutely love Luke Freeman.
Is he the QPR guy, former QPR guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every time I've seen him play in a Sheffield United shirt, I've been so impressed. So impressed when he played for QPR as well. And when he plays really well. And it just really frustrates me that he doesn't get a chance, really. And I think the main reason for that is we play, obviously, Duffy left because he had an argument with Wilder over his contract and stuff, which was very, very upsetting for me. And I think that was kind of like the replacement. And I think that Wilder thought, let's start with kind of like a 3 central midfielders. And then we'll kind of, once we're bedded into the Premier League, we'll bring in kind of like an attacking midfielder or bring on an attacking midfielder. And we just haven't needed to do that because we've been so good at getting up and down. So I think that's the reason why Luke Freeman didn't kind of work. I think with Ollie McBurney, I think he's just, I don't know, I think he's trying to get used to the Premier League. I think he's been better recently. You probably laugh at this, but I've got to say that Mousse, for me, is a top tier striker on his day, because obviously the reason why he's playing for us is because he's not consistent enough. He didn't do it at Bournemouth, but in that month where he was assisting goals and scoring goals for fun, he was just unplayable. He's got the pace, he's got the power, he's got the finishing ability. And it's a bit sad that we just need to get him fitter, playing week in, week out. And he definitely would be in this list for me if he'd have at least played a month or 2 more. It's just a bit of a shame, but so that's pretty much it for me. Billy Sharp's not been given the games, and I think when he had been given the games earlier on in the season, he wasn't kind of doing enough. And I think he's been quite lucky to get into the team, because I think the main reason for that is because David McGoldrick got injured, and the only player that I'm going to put forward for this, if I can, is David McGoldrick.
That's the controversial one, former Ipswich man.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I forgot about that. He obviously was injured all the time for Ipswich, but barely been injured for us at all until recently. He's been probably one of the best players this season. I know I keep saying that about every player.
Well, you've had a good season,
but David, definitely, and David McGoldrick has just been the link between the attack and the midfield. So because we've lost that attacking midfield role, David McGoldrick's kind of come into the hole, picked the ball up, and just kind of linked it all up. But the problem is the stats aren't in his favour, because he didn't score a goal at all in the Premier League this season before he got injured. And he's that middle guy. He doesn't make the assists necessarily, doesn't score the goals, but he just links everything up and makes us tick.
He's the emulsifier. That's what I'd call him.
Okay, yeah. I'm happy with going with that.
I'll tell you what about David McGoldrick. I'm going to politely argue against him not being in the team, but he is one player that I can appreciate, because obviously he played for Ipswich for a handful of years, and I remember him very, very well, because we constantly beat him. But genuinely, he was the one player who he would come on the pitch or he'd start the game, and I think, right, that's a problem. He missed some massive chances against Norwich, which perhaps could have turned the tide in the games. But I can definitely appreciate that. David McGoldrick is very underrated. Perhaps, as you said, if he improves his goal scoring, then all of a sudden you've got yourself not a world-class striker, but sort of a Premier League topping striker. But I can definitely appreciate that. However, I will politely counter with Mr. Timu Pukki, who... honestly, every single Norwich fan just sort of wets themselves when they think of Timu Pukki, when they talk about him, because I think he's gone under the radar massively, sort of on an international and national scale, because obviously he was player of the month for August, very, very good. I think he scored like 6 goals in a month, which is just ridiculous for someone in his second season of English football. But he's got to go in there for me. He's still the same player. his finishing's just a bit more shy because he's been so heavily relied upon, which is because it all links back to the transfer window Norwich had in summer and also January, I suppose, where it was very light and the signings didn't work out. So I don't know, you probably have no idea who we signed, but we signed Patrick Roberts on loan, played 22 minutes of football. We signed a player called Ibrahim Amadou. He played twice in his natural position, didn't work out, was sort of the £10 million man. We signed Ralph Fairman. I think you must know who he is from FIFA at least.
Who's that, sorry?
Ralph Fairman, the German goalkeeper.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
And he played 22 minutes in the Premier League before getting injured.
Yeah.
And that just constantly happened in that window, so we had to keep relying upon Pukki. We had Josip Dermic as well, but he kept getting injured as well. So we kept relying upon Pukki to score time after time after time, and it got to the point where he did actually get injured. I think he fractured his toe, and he was playing through that. Which is just, it's ridiculous in the fact that he was still playing, and he genuinely could be on about 30 goals this season because he plays so well with a player I'll mention a bit later on, but he's still got 11 goals, which is politely, it's double what Mousse has, probably in more games. But that is my main note here, which is 11 goals compared to sort of Sheffield United. And honestly, the way the guy reads the game is just ridiculous. Like, he's very, very quick, but he doesn't even need to be, just because he gets himself in the pockets of space and works them so well. And I think my recommendation to sort of sum up Teemu Pukki is his hat-trick against Newcastle and the types of goals. You've got the first, which is a rocket, which surprised everyone because we didn't know he could kick the ball that hard. but the second two goals sum him up so well, which is sort of adapting the position beautifully and then just catching the goalie, napping a bit, so to speak. I think the second goal was literally he opened up and cut it back in the near post. You don't get that in the Premier League. That's unheard of. You get bangers, you get tap-ins, but that sort of Teemu Pukki finish is what did him so well. And honestly, I think people will see. I would have said at the 2020 Euros, but at the 2021 Euros, people will see how good he is when he plays for Finland. Yeah, that's sort of my emotional monologue on Teemu Pukki and why he is so sort of just brilliant.
Yeah, well, to be perfectly honest, I've got him here at attacker. I've got him up front. I was thinking more McGoldrick as an attacking midfielder, kind of maybe left or right. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to let you carry on talking about Emi Buendia now. Go for it.
I was going to say, maybe I could see McGoldrick getting on the left, but on the right, it's got to be Buendia. Genuinely, the guy, he's the best I've seen play for Norwich. And we've seen some good players from Norwich, James Maddison as well. But Buendia, just some stats. He's got 7 assists in the Premier League this season, which is 4th behind KDB, Trent and Mahrez. Three pretty decent players. And also, which I think is more impressive and links to what I was saying about Pukki, is that he's created the 4th most chances in the Premier League this season behind De Bruyne, Trent and James Maddison.
Wow.
Which, for a player who no one seems to talk about at all, he's unreal. The downfall to him is his sort of South American temper, in terms of he kicks out, the arms are thrown up. I remember on my channel we spoke to Norwich's head of recruitment about him and sort of the transfer and what was the sort of thinking behind it. And the thing he constantly praised was his technical ability, but the doubts were sort of crept in because of his attitude, and that's been questioned a couple of times this season. But Buendia he's just stupidly good, and also I think we played Wolves this season, and he beat the record for the most dribbles in the game for like 15 years, which I think was like 9 or 10. And honestly, just watch the highlights of that game. The guy's just ridiculous. If he had a perfect attitude, he'd be worth 70, 75 million, easy peasy. He'll leave Norwich at the end of the season. It makes me cry when I think about it, but it's sort of one of them things that you accept. Buendia is just stupidly good. He's just a bit annoying at times.
I'm more than happy with letting you have Pukki and Buendia. No problem whatsoever. I really like Cantwell. I really, really like Cantwell. Yeah. He annoys me a lot. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just his celebration.
I was going to say, what is that? Because there's a few things that you could say about that. I'll give you the story of Todd Cantwell, which it's a very interesting one, because I think you can sort of compare him to, I think it's Lundstrom that you said, who didn't really play last season. Is that right?
Yeah.
So Todd Cantwell barely played last season. He's always been known around Norwich because he's a local lad. He's from Dereham, which is 10 minutes from Norwich. And he's all you have them players in the under-23, so you just see their names. You think, oh, they're on loan there and they're doing quite well. He was one of them. So he went out on loan in 17-18 to Fortuna Sittard, who were in at the time the second hot Dutch league. I don't know what it's called.
Right.
No offense to any Dutch listeners or watchers, but he played there and he was a massive part of their promotion push, and that was sort of the turning point to, this kid can actually play. Maybe he is cut out for it. He came back to England. He didn't play. And quite often he was sort of the scapegoat for Norwich, because I'm sure every football club and fans have that. They have the scapegoat player, and Todd Cantwell was that for a long time.
Wait, are you actually talking about John Lundstrom now? Because it feels like they're both they're the exact same player here. Not playing. When they do play, they are the scapegoat. Mm-hmm. It just feels so close to home, that.
Yeah, that's what it was last season. Honestly, it was quite sad, because we spoke to Norwich's sporting director as well, and one of the things that he said was they couldn't sell him they couldn't get him on loan to a League One team or a League Two team. They said no one wanted him because he wasn't physical enough. And that combined with what he said about, you must know Josh Murphy.
Yeah.
Obviously, he used to play for Norwich, and one of the main reasons he left Norwich was not because of the fans, but because of the constant abuse and stick he got. Which I was worried was going to happen to Todd Cantwell. I don't want to say I called this, but it is on video, which was, you could always see Todd Cantwell was a really good technical player. And he came in to pre-season before this season. I keep wanting to say last season, but we're playing on. And he had a really, really good pre-season. There was a game where we played Atalanta, a team in Serie A who are top four, comfortably Champions League. I think they put up a good fight against Manchester City. And he ran the show, and it's like, Christ alive, where's this guy come from? And what really impresses me, which is I think similar to Chris Wilder, is the performance was rewarded by Daniel Farke. A bit of faith was shown in a performance rather than a name, rather than a price tag, which is such an important thing. And my God, the guy has thrived in the Premier League. He's 21. There are going to be times where he goes missing, but that's natural for any young footballer. It's just about how you bounce back. And my God, the guy's bounced back. He is proper good. And I think you can sort of see in his performance how it's matured. You look at Liverpool, he was a bit nervous on the ball on the opening day of the season. He was playing easy passes, but then he would sometimes take a player on. Compare that to our performance against Liverpool in February. He was just making Trent look like an absolute mug with some fancy little flick. And also, you look at Spurs. I don't know if you saw the penalty where he's doing the keepy uppies before, then he shushes the Spurs fans, and it's just like, what a prospect, what a sort of prodigy at the moment. But he's got to go in there for me, just because he's also scored like 7 goals as well. He scored against Man City, scored against Arsenal, scored against Chelsea, and this was all fairly close to the beginning of the season. So he's so good, and his physicality has improved massively as well. But the Norwich attack I have so much praise for, as is quite evident. But I think Cantwell has to go in there. Yeah,
that's fair enough then. So. We'll let you have. So which side are we going? So which one's left, which one's right? Are we going Buendia right?
Yeah, Buendia's usually right, but I think the beauty of it really is that they interchange. Which I think, if you look at this team, and if we were to formulate a tactical plan, which I don't think we'll do, but you want them to be interchangeable, because that's the way
maybe after the video.
Maybe after, but it doesn't matter. Play him wherever, he'll do a job.
So we'll go Buendia on the right, we'll go Cantwell on the left, and Pookie through the middle. This is the second video in a row where I've given the opposition all the attackers.
So the first one was Wolves?
Yes.
It's hard not to give them the attack though, is it? Because, what a stupidly good team they are.
I looked at their goal scorers and assists, and like I said earlier on, the right back had more than any of our players. And then Raul Jimenez, I think, had like 12 goals and 16 goals, sorry. And I think Jota had 12, something stupid like that. I'm like, we're only just past halfway of the season. Like, what is going on? So anyway, thank you very much for joining us on the channel. How many did we have in the end? Let's just quickly go through the combined 11. So we've got Dean Henderson in the net. We've got Max Aarons at right back. We've got John Egan and Chris Basham at centre back. We've got Ender Stevens at left back. Then we had Vrancic, Ollie Norwood, and John Fleck. And do you want to say the last three? Because I just can't do it.
Quite happily. We're calling it left attack and right attack, I think, rather than wingers. Yeah. They're sort of a bit of a mystery in football now. But we've got Buendia on the right, Cantwell left, Pookie through the middle, Bob's your uncle, goals galore.
So that would be a very good team.
I would love to see that team play. I would love it.
Anyway, thank you very much for coming on the channel. Do you want to say a few quick things about your channel before you leave, and we ask people to go over and subscribe?
Just a Norwich City channel, really. I do quite like to engage. I do have a few controversial opinions, which I genuinely believe in, which I think is the important thing. We're also on iTunes and Spotify, which is quite cool, so you can listen to our podcast there. I would like to put a case forward quickly for a footballing friendship between Sheffield United and Norwich. I do think we should unite a bit more. Because I think we're very similar. We're at different ends of the table, but I think we are very similar. But yeah, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, completely agree. Oh, before we go, manager, we need to.
Chris Wilder. Chris Wilder. It's got to be. I do love Daniel Farke. Love him to pieces. Fantastic head coach, but I've got to get Wilder in there.
So you don't hate Wilder then?
No, I love him. I think he's brilliant. I think he's hilarious.
Good. I bet there's a lot of Norwich fans that do.
He is a massive tit sometimes, but he's so funny, and he's just really stupidly good at his job.
All right, thanks for joining us. Really enjoyed this chat as always.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sure we'll see you soon.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
So thank you very much for watching, and stay in good night.
Look at that ping from Norwood. Makes other teams look no good. Yeah. We've got a team full of leaders. Alan Hill, Chris Wilder taught us. Right. Yeah, there was us on the tour bus. Yeah. Look how many goals Billy scored us. It's beautiful downtown Bromley Lane. We are the boys from Shore.